In July 9th, 1943, Operation Husky took place, where 180,000 Allied troops landed in Sicily and eventually took control of it. Fast forward to Operation Avalanche, where the invasion of mainland Italy begins, which also takes place in the setting for our game here on Song for War. This is brought to you by Invicta Rex, and this will be our primer, where I'm going to go through some of the rules so you guys have a better understanding as you watch our gameplay of what is happening. But as I said, this will be taking place at the beginning of Operation Avalanche, just prior to the invasion in mainland Italy, where in real life, the US invaded Salerno with their troops without even the use of bombarding of their naval forces, trying to get us a quick beachhead. But in this game, you have the free-form decisions of the Allies or as the Axis players to make your decisions in terms of how would you invade Italy or how would you defend it. So we're going to go ahead and cover some of the basic rules here so you have a good understanding of kind of the concepts that we're talking about. So the first thing we're going to be taking a look are at the units, and specifically the unit card. On the unit card, there are divisions of air, sea, and land, basically defining the different types of units that we have in the game. Obviously, air is for our airplanes, air transports, bombers, and fighters. The sea will transport most of our boats, sea transports, our submarines, battleships, whatnot. And land will be all of our ground forces, so our infantry, truck transports, artillery, and tanks. All of these units are represented on our individual faction unit cards, as well as their move values, their specific armor values, and their damage values and what they will roll in specific types of combat. If we take a look here quickly at the Great Britain standard units, we'll get a good idea of what we're talking about as we talk about the specific type of units you can look at and some of the abilities they might be referencing. So an easy one to talk about, which I always start with, is the fighter. We can see the fighter has a move of 4 and has an armor of a white value. And this is also a prototype, so everything is subject to change and all that. But we have an armor of white, and the firepower is a 7 with the symbol next to it also in white. What that means is the fighter can hit on a 7 up on a D12, so we'll be rolling a 12-sided dice, and 7 plus will hit, and the symbol here also references the air symbol, which means fighters can only deal damage to other air units. If we take a look at the light bomber, you'll notice that there's a star, a green star, and an anchor. That's referencing that damage will be dealing to either ground or naval forces, and the wings are to air forces. So that is a quick way that you can look at the card and understand what kind of damage they're going to be doing and who they deal damage to. The color of the box also differs how much damage this unit deals, with white damage being the least amount of damage, gray being the middle damage, and black being the heavy damage, and potentially purple being the heaviest damage, which nothing in the base game natively deals purple damage, but there is a way to get it based off some of the bonuses here on the unit card. So just to the right of those are some additional bonuses. We have just additional keywords and strategies. Those are all found on the back of the card right here under unit abilities, which I'm not going to cover those right now, but that's where you would find any specific unit abilities, and in the playthrough we will talk about those going forward. And then to the far right is the most important part of the steps of this game, are the movement steps. So let's talk about how movement works. So in this game there is a movement step and a battle step. The movement step goes each category one by one and allows both sides to do their movement. So let's talk about how that works. So the first thing we'll do is movement step 1, which is basically fighters and subs can move up to their movement value. Of course, you will reference your sheet and find out where those units are, and then you will move them as accordingly. So from there, if we had our subs, I can move my subs around here. This player could also move their fighters around here. Something similar to that effect, moving their units down the board. Now, since there's nothing in conflict right now, we'll skip the battle step and we move to step 2, which would be the destroyers, transports, fighters again, as well as light bombers, air transports, and heavy bombers. So let's give an example. What would happen if we had a few combats happening at the same time? So we're just going to move some units here just to show an effect of how the battle steps work. So here we have a conflict occurring. We've got some fighters just 2 destroyers and 2 submarines meeting in battle. So we will reference the battle steps here. You can just go basically down the steps order, resolving each step as you go. So the first thing we check are AA. There's no AA on the field, so then we go to step 2. We have fighters. Well, we technically have 2 fighters in the conflict, so the one player would roll, they miss, the other player would roll, and they got a hit. So we would lose a unit from that faction. And then we keep going down. We have destroyers and subs. So again, the sub player will roll, and they got a hit, so we will be taking a hit, but the other player gets to roll as well at the same step, and they will roll, and they also got a hit. So these will be reflected like that, and that is effectively how the combat steps go. You just keep moving down the row, checking to see, okay, are there any of these in the game, or any of the fight, or any of these, etc. Now, an additional rule follow-up with that is, let's say at some point, my opponent was able to bring in, let's say, a cruiser, and came in here and decided he wanted to initiate combat again because the cruiser has anti-aircraft. Everything, we basically start over. Okay, anti-aircraft, well, the cruiser has anti-aircraft, so we'll roll it. It misses. The fighters get to roll. They miss, etc. So you basically go down the steps of everything that is in the conflict, and you always reference the damage and armor value of what kind of damage you're dealing, and you always reflect on what you're going to be losing in terms of casualties when you take things from the board. So that is a very easy way to kind of look at the game and understand the units and how they are moved, as well as how they are going to be dealing combat. So we're just going to take a really quick look then at the board and get an idea of kind of what we have here. So on the board, there are several different locations, and in this game, the Allies are trying to score 30 victory points by capturing capital cities or other fortifications. On each of these locations, there is a number that indicates how many victory points they are. Some of them are 6, some of them are 1, depending on the importance of that specific location. So from there, you're also going to see at the bottom of these cities all have a reinforcement number. So eventually when we get to the resupply stage, we get to resupply by purchasing additional units, which are also referenced on our unit card underneath the cost section. Now, when we purchase units, I can reinforce my ground army here, spending 11. I can reinforce my Air Force here, spending 11. And if I wanted to, I could also reinforce my Navy here, spending 7. So I can kind of pick and choose where I'm going to deploy my units and spend their resupply, but also knowing that when I build my units, they're going to go to the locations that I spent. So that's important to know. And as soon as an enemy unit has captured it by landing a unit there and having no more of my effective troops that have these flags on them, they will then gain control of the city, effectively shutting off my resupply point, and then they could resupply at that location. So that is the very quick, rough rules of how this game plays, so that you guys have a good understanding of kind of what's going on, so that you can enjoy this game going forward. The last thing I want to talk about are the hidden fleets that are inside this game. Now, each of the allies, as well as the Axis, have some sort of units that are hidden on the board, and they are going to be deployed at a specific moment when the player feels ready to utilize those troops. So on the unit card during the setup, it'll tell you right here your hidden fleet and what units are in those hidden fleets. And I have an example here of this fleet that is somewhere on the map. Now on this spin dial, there is a little dial that you will spin to select your coordinates of where you're going to go. And you can basically, in secret, move your ships and your fleet around the board until you are ready to reveal them, to then utilize their special abilities or utilize their, by spreading them out across the field, depending on whatever you want to do by revealing those units onto the map. Now, the Allies both have their own hidden fleet. The Axis doesn't have a hidden fleet, but they have hidden units. So over here in these boxes are potential areas that I could hide, and basically I'm going to be assigning units to each of those boxes to basically say that these units are going to be hiding here for me to reveal and to resupply or to defend specific points at certain points in the game. So they are reserve units that are not aware, the allies have no idea where they're at, but they're available for me to resupply and redistribute as I need for reinforcement's sake. So that is the quick rough of the rules, so that way you guys can understand how this game works and enjoy the playthrough. So again, I welcome you to sit back and relax, enjoy the playthrough, and leave a comment down below if you have any questions. We'd love to help you answer them.